It's quite remarkable, isn't it? Right now, countless men are sitting in quiet contemplation while their partners engage in vociferous accusations about incidents from 3 years prior. They find themselves labeled as incorrect for actions they never committed, offering apologies for sentiments they never harbored, and somehow, bewilderingly, losing disagreements concerning their own personal emotions. And when these men finally declare, "I've had enough," society expresses astonishment. Where have all the decent men vanished? They've departed. They've disengaged. They've come to the understanding that the entire system is inherently unfair. Allow me to elucidate precisely why so many men are opting out of romantic partnerships altogether, and why this trend continues to surge with each passing day. Here's an observational exercise that will reveal everything. The next time you find yourself embroiled in a disagreement with a woman, endeavor to pinpoint the court issue you are actually debating. I can almost guarantee you won't be able to, because it commenced with talk of household chores, progressed to her family members, then veered back to an occurrence in 2019, circled around your tone of voice, and inexplicably concluded with you offering an apology for her emotional state. This is not an accidental occurrence. This is not simply how women behave. This is a calculated tactic, and once you perceive it, it becomes impossible to ignore. This strategic exhibition of female emotionality is a behavioral pattern that most men fail to recognize. You likely believe she is merely upset, experiencing heightened emotions, or simply needs to express herself. However, observe the predictable sequence. The tears emerge at the exact moment you present a logical argument. The anger surfaces precisely when you seek accountability. The confusion manifests right as you require a clear response. It's not haphazard. It is deliberate. And it proves effective because you've been conditioned to interpret female emotion as genuine, rather than as a strategic tool. I recall a client whose girlfriend would weep every time he brought up her expenditures. Every single instance he produced bank statements, she would cry. He would mention budgeting, and tears would flow. He would inquire about a credit card, and waterworks would ensue. For a period of 2 years, he was unable to complete a single conversation about finances because he was consumed with comforting her. She managed to accrue $30,000 in debt while he was apologizing for causing her distress over monetary matters. The dynamics of manipulative communication are remarkably sophisticated once you grasp them. She doesn't seek clarity. Clarity necessitates accountability. She desires confusion, because confusion facilitates control. Consequently, she will introduce 17 disparate subjects, conflate past occurrences with present circumstances, blend feelings with facts, until you are so disoriented that you can no longer recall the genesis of the discussion. You are engaged in a game of chess, while she is orchestrating psychological warfare. A friend of mine recorded a contentious exchange with his former partner, a legal action in his jurisdiction. He played the recording for me. Within a span of 20 minutes, she shifted topics 14 times. 14. He attempted to address each point, but before he could fully articulate his thoughts, she would abruptly move to another subject. By the conclusion, he was apologizing, and neither of us could discern the reason for it. That is not communication. It is a conflict engineered to resemble a conversation. The underlying belief systems that dictate control run far deeper than most men comprehend. There exist these unstated conventions, these narratives that underpin contemporary relationships. And if you are unaware of them, you are already at a disadvantage. These are never formally documented, nor are they explicitly articulated. Yet, they govern every aspect. And any challenge to them immediately casts you in a negative light. The initial notion, the expectation of telepathic insight, is utterly absurd when one contemplates it. She anticipates you will comprehend her desires without any verbal communication, grasp her thoughts without subtle hints, and understand her needs without direct expression. And when you fail to do so, it is interpreted as a lack of attentiveness on your part. It is a game where the rules are concealed, the objectives are perpetually shifting, and defeat is inevitable. Consider this. If you were to arrive at your place of employment, and your supervisor expected you to accomplish tasks without informing you of their nature, and then subsequently terminated your employment for failing to execute them, such a scenario would be deemed irrational. However, within the context of romantic relationships, this is commonplace. If you loved me, you would know. No. If you loved me, you would tell me. But that is a logical approach, and logic holds no sway here. The subsequent pervasive belief, the elevation of emotion to paramount status, is even more detrimental. Her feelings are not merely acknowledged, they are treated as immutable truths. She experiences a sense of being disrespected, which then translates to you having disrespected her. Regardless of your intentions, she feels unloved, and therefore you do not love her. Regardless of your actions, her emotions dictate reality, and reality becomes open to negotiation. You are no longer discussing the events that transpired. You are debating her emotional response to her perception of those events. I provided counsel to a man whose wife accused him of infidelity simply because she felt he was being unfaithful. There was no tangible evidence, no suspicious conduct. She merely felt it. And in her mind, her feeling was sufficient proof. He was compelled to demonstrate his innocence against her subjective emotional state. How does one refute a feeling? It is impossible. That is precisely the point. It is an unfalsifiable accusation masquerading as intuition. The third prevalent myth. The disparity in emotional expression is the most apparent yet widely accepted. She is permitted to yell, to hurl objects, to utter the most venomous words imaginable. That is simply her expressing herself. You raise your voice once and you are labeled aggressive, dangerous, abusive. She can experience emotional crises on a monthly basis. That is attributed to hormones. You endure one difficult day and you are deemed unstable and in need of therapeutic intervention. A client's wife hurled plates at him during a dispute. Actual ceramic plates. When he elevated his voice, imploring her to cease, she contacted the authorities, claiming she felt threatened. He was forcibly removed from his own residence. She destroyed property and committed an assault, yet his elevated tone was deemed the transgression. This is not an isolated incident. It is the system functioning precisely as it was designed. The cultural reinforcement of female victimhood is ubiquitous. Every cinematic production, every television series, every published article propagates the same message. Women's emotions are valid. Men's are toxic. Women's anger signifies empowerment. Men's anger constitutes abuse. Women's tears are authentic. Men's tears are manipulative. The entirety of our culture is structured to legitimize female emotion while pathologizing male emotion. Social media amplifies this phenomenon exponentially. A woman posts about experiencing sadness, and she receives hundreds of comments offering support. A man posts about experiencing sadness, and the responses are, "Man up," "Stop being weak," or "Women have it worse." The message is unambiguous. A man's emotions are only considered significant when they serve a woman's needs. Otherwise, he is expected to remain silent and provide. The ramifications for men within relationships are devastating. You are ensnared in a predicament where victory is unattainable. If you question her emotions, you are insensitive and uncaring. If you validate her emotions, you are implicitly admitting guilt for whatever she is experiencing. If you attempt to find a compromise, you are perceived as manipulative. There is no correct course of action because the game is not designed for you to win. Every interaction becomes a perilous obstacle course. You are perpetually treading on thin ice, censoring your speech, meticulously calculating risks. Will this particular statement ignite an argument? Will this opinion precipitate an emotional breakdown? Will this established boundary trigger a crisis? You are not truly living. You are merely surviving. You are not in a partnership. You are held captive by another person's emotional state. I witness the effects of this in my professional practice on a daily basis. Men who are so utterly demoralized that they no longer recognize themselves. Individuals who once possessed confidence are now second-guessing every word they utter. Leaders in their professional fields have become subservient within their households. Strong men are reduced to being emotional caretakers, existing solely to manage another person's feelings while their own are disregarded or punished. True empowerment begins with the recognition of these patterns. Once you understand that her emotions are often tactical maneuvers rather than factual representations, everything shifts. Once you comprehend that these prevailing narratives are not immutable laws, you can liberate yourself from them. Once you acknowledge that the game is unfairly structured, you can choose not to participate. This is not about cultivating an unfeeling or cruel disposition. It is about reclaiming your personal reality. When you cease to accept her feelings as absolute truths, a curious transformation occurs. Initially, she will likely become intensely angry, indignant that you are not validating her perceived reality. However, if you maintain your stance with unwavering resolve, something fundamental shifts. She will either acknowledge and respect the boundary you have established, or she will reveal herself as someone who prioritizes control over genuine connection. In either scenario, you emerge victorious, either through an improved relationship or by uncovering an essential truth. The underlying principle concerning power dynamics and authenticity is paramount. This discourse is not about outright deception. Everyone is capable of recognizing dishonesty. This is about prevalent myths that feel authentic because societal norms actively reinforce them. The myth that male suffering holds less significance. The myth that female emotion inherently equates to truth. The myth that questioning a woman's feelings constitutes abuse. These pervasive myths serve to uphold power structures that disproportionately benefit one gender at the expense of the other. Men are collectively awakening to this reality. They observe friends undergoing devastating divorce proceedings, brothers facing unfounded accusations, fathers being systematically alienated from their children, and careers being dismantled by allegations. And they are performing a cost-benefit analysis. What precisely is the advantage of this arrangement? What tangible benefits are being received that justify this level of inherent risk? The contemporary offering in romantic relationships to men can be summarized as follows. Provide for everything. Expect nothing in return. Fund all expenses. Possess nothing. Sacrifice everything. Guarantee nothing. Be solely accountable for her happiness, yet anticipate no reciprocal support. Manage her emotional fluctuations, but suppress your own. And should she experience unhappiness for any reason, be prepared to forfeit half your assets and access to your children. Young men in particular are evaluating this proposition and concluding it is not worthwhile. They witness their fathers devastated by marital dissolution, their brothers victimized by false allegations, their friends trapped in relationships devoid of intimacy. And they opt for video games, personal pursuits, camaraderie, or professional advancement. Anything but romantic partnerships. This is not due to an inability to attract women, but rather because they have meticulously examined the expenditure versus reward ratio and found it wanting. The statistics are alarming. Marriage rates have fallen to unprecedented lows. Birth rates are plummeting, and young men are disengaging from the dating sphere entirely. And instead of inquiring, what is flawed with the proposition we are presenting to men? Society poses the question, what is fundamentally wrong with men? The profound lack of introspection is astonishing. The strategic deployment of confusion during disagreements extends beyond mere topic diversification. Observe how a woman might suddenly shift the focus to your tone of voice when you are presenting a logical argument. The contention is not about the substance of your words, but rather the manner in which they were delivered. Consequently, the discussion is no longer about objective facts, but rather about defending your method of emotional expression. She may claim you are shouting when you are speaking at a normal volume. She might assert you are being unkind when you are simply stating factual information. She might accuse you of aggression when you are merely defending yourself. The objective is to compel you to concentrate so intensely on defending your communication style that you entirely forget the original issue at hand. I witnessed this unfold in real time with a friend. His girlfriend borrowed his vehicle and subsequently damaged it in an accident. When he inquired about the necessary insurance particulars, she abruptly began to weep, lamenting that he was making her feel guilt-ridden about the incident. Abruptly, he found himself comforting her regarding the damage to his own car. She never did proceed with handling the insurance claim. He bore the entire financial burden while simultaneously apologizing for his insensitivity concerning his own damaged property. The pervasive notion of emotional supremacy extends to the retroactive alteration of past events. Her feelings are not confined to the present moment. She can experience emotions about the past that fundamentally change the nature of what actually occurred. That memorable vacation you enjoyed? She now perceives it as having been dreadful, thus rendering it objectively dreadful. The gift you bestowed upon her? She now considers it to have been thoughtless. Thus it was indeed thoughtless. Your entire shared history becomes subject to the fluctuations of her current emotional state. An ex-wife of a client contended in court that their entire decade-long marriage had been characterized by abuse. Her justification? She now felt that his commitment to working extended hours constituted emotional abandonment. His request for a prenuptial agreement was reinterpreted as financial coercion. His suggestion that she seek employment was construed as an attempt at control. Every standard marital negotiation was reframed through the lens of her contemporary emotional state as abusive conduct, and the court gave serious consideration to her claims. The process of constructing these myths commences early in romantic relationships. She tests the boundaries of what she can achieve. Initially, these are minor emotional manipulations. If you acquiesce to them, they tend to escalate. If you challenge them, she will explore different avenues for testing your limits. It is akin to training an individual to accept progressively more unreasonable demands by initiating with seemingly benign ones. The progression is predictable. Initially, you are deemed incorrect on minor matters about which you possess absolute certainty. Subsequently, you are offering apologies for actions you never performed. Following that, you are accepting culpability for her emotional reactions. Then, you become accountable for her overall happiness. Ultimately, your existence is solely dedicated to fulfilling her emotional needs, while your own remain entirely unaddressed. This occurs so incrementally that you fail to notice until you are completely subjugated. The double standards in emotional expression become more pronounced over time. In the initial stages, she might occasionally acknowledge your feelings, but as the relationship progresses, your emotions become increasingly inconsequential. Her challenging day necessitates complete attention and unwavering support. Your difficult day is characterized as you being negative and bringing down her mood. Her stress is deemed valid and requires immediate resolution. Your stress is interpreted as your inability to manage situations effectively. Here's what is truly transpiring. Men are discovering they no longer require what is being offered. They once believed that romantic partnerships were essential for happiness, for completeness, for validation. Then they experienced these relationships and encountered misery, depletion, and persistent criticism. Consequently, they are now exploring life independent of these partnerships and are discovering something quite surprising. It is, in fact, rather enjoyable. A client shared a profound observation with me. I dedicated a decade to attempting to make her happy, and I was perpetually miserable. I have spent the past 2 years focusing on my own happiness, and I feel fantastic. He now possesses financial resources because no one is depleting them. He experiences tranquility because no one is orchestrating interpersonal drama. He has ample time because no one is perpetually demanding his attention. He retains energy because no one is draining it. He is not inherently opposed to women. He is unequivocally in favor of his own well-being. The liberation men discover when they disengage is profoundly intoxicating. No more debates about inconsequential matters. No more apologizing for simply existing. No more managing another person's emotional state. No more being deemed wrong by default. No more toiling excessively for an individual who is perpetually unsatisfied. Simply peace, personal development, and genuine happiness. However, here is an interesting observation. Many men do not even become angry about these circumstances. They simply become weary, utterly exhausted. They reach a threshold where the prospect of engaging in another argument is simply not worth the effort. The next accusation does not warrant a defense. The subsequent demand is not worth meeting. They do not depart in a fit of rage. They leave in a state of profound resignation. The antithesis of love is not animosity, it is indifference. I observe this profound exhaustion reflected in the eyes of men. They are not embittered, they are simply finished. They have exhausted every possible avenue. They have perused self-help literature, attended therapy sessions, improved their communication skills, listened more attentively, provided more generously, and reduced their expectations. None of it proved effective because the system itself is not designed for success. It is engineered to extract the maximum possible benefit while yielding the minimum possible return. The strategic disengagement that men are currently executing is entirely logical. If a business venture consistently incurs financial losses, one divests from it. If an investment never yields any returns, one liquidates their holdings. If a game is demonstrably rigged against you, the sensible course of action is to refrain from playing. Men are applying fundamental principles of logic to their romantic entanglements and arriving at undeniable conclusions. The emotional manipulation that clouds sound judgment is gradually dissipating, and reality is becoming increasingly apparent. The gaslighting that men experience when they attempt to discuss these issues is entirely predictable. They are told they are merely bitter, that someone hurt them, that they will die alone, that they are missing out. But are they truly missing out? What precisely are they forfeiting? The privilege of underwriting another person's lifestyle. The exhilaration of constant criticism. The thrill of navigating a minefield of potential false accusations. Men are performing the calculations and realizing that contemporary romantic relationships are akin to a casino. The establishment always prevails. Certainly, on occasion, someone strikes it rich, encounters a rare gem, finds an exceptional partner, but the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against you. And the longer you persist in playing, the greater the certainty of your eventual loss. The tactics of instilling shame are losing their efficacy. Men are labeled as incels for possessing standards, commitment phobic for recognizing unfavorable arrangements, immature for refusing self-sacrifice, and selfish for prioritizing their own welfare. These labels were once instrumental in controlling behavior, but their power is diminishing as men increasingly comprehend that the disapproval of strangers holds less significance than their own personal devastation. The current dating landscape is revealing these truths in real time. Women lament the disappearance of all the good men, while steadfastly refusing to acknowledge the factors that have driven them away. Standards have escalated dramatically, while the value proposition has plummeted. Demands have intensified, while reciprocity has diminished. Then, confusion arises when men cease to participate. A woman I know complained that men today are only interested in sex and are unwilling to commit. I pose the question of what she offers beyond sexual intimacy that would render commitment a worthwhile endeavor. She was offended by the inquiry, but consider this. If you remove sex from the equation, what remains in the exchange? Companionship. Men have friends for that. Emotional support. Men provide support for one another. Domestic assistance. Men can readily hire professionals for such tasks. What is the unique value proposition? The answer was once unequivocally clear. Family. A lasting legacy. A genuine partnership. Shared growth and development. However, modern relationships frequently fail to deliver on any of these fronts. Instead, they frequently present liabilities, relentless criticism, overwhelming emotional labor, and significant financial drain. The traditional benefits have been eroded, while the traditional obligations remain firmly in place. The fundamental terms of the arrangement have drastically changed. Yet, we are expected to maintain the pretense that they have not. Men are recognizing the necessity of dismantling these prevailing myths to achieve personal happiness. The myth that one requires a romantic partner to feel complete. The myth that solitude invariably equates to loneliness. The myth that a man's worth is contingent upon a woman's validation. The myth that self-sacrifice is synonymous with love. These deeply ingrained myths have served to imprison an immeasurable number of men within unsatisfactory relationships. To dismantle them signifies liberation. The clarity that emerges from stepping back is truly remarkable. Men who have been detached from romantic partnerships for an extended period report feeling as though they have awakened from a profound spell. They are incredulous at what they once tolerated. bewildered as to why they accepted it, and utterly unable to fathom returning to such a state. The lingering fog of emotional manipulation lifts, rendering the reality undeniable. The personal growth that occurs when one ceases to dedicate their energy to managing another person's emotional state is exponential. Suddenly, there is an abundance of energy for pursuing one's own objectives, capital for realizing one's dreams, leisure time for engaging in personal interests, and profound peace for fostering personal development. You rediscover who you genuinely are, in contrast to the persona you were contriving to maintain another person's happiness. A client who separated from his marriage 2 years ago has undergone a complete transformation. He has shed 40 pounds, launched a successful business, reconnected with old friends, and traveled extensively across the globe. He confided, "I never realized how confined my existence had become as I attempted to conform to her world." He is not opposed to relationships in principle. He is an advocate for personal growth, and the relationships as they are presently offered are antithetical to growth. The realization that emotional self-sufficiency is achievable strikes men with the force of a revelation. One does not require another individual's validation to feel a sense of worth. One does not need another person's permission to experience happiness. One does not require another individual's approval to simply exist. The emotional dependency that relationships cultivate is not love, it is addiction. The withdrawal symptoms experienced when men initially disengage are very real. The ingrained conditioning to seek female approval runs profoundly deep. The programming to derive one's sense of value from providing is exceptionally strong. However, by persevering through that initial period of discomfort, profound freedom awaits. Freedom to articulate one's genuine thoughts, to experience one's authentic feelings, to live one's own life. The reaction from women when men withdraw from these arrangements is highly revealing. There is a conspicuous absence of self-reflection regarding potential shortcomings in the offering. There is no consideration given to how to provide greater value. Instead, there is outright anger that men are no longer accepting unfavorable arrangements. There is shaming for refusing to participate in rigged games. There is rage that the manipulative tactics are no longer effective. However, here is the critical point. Rage and shame are only potent against men who still hold your opinions in high regard. And increasingly, they do not. They have discovered significance in purpose rather than in romantic partnerships. They find value in personal growth rather than in external validation. They derive worth from their achievements rather than from seeking approval. The leverage that once existed is gone because the perceived need has evaporated. The future implications of this societal shift are profound. Birth rates are plummeting. Marriage is becoming increasingly obsolete. And women are left wondering where all the men have gone. Men are actively constructing parallel societal structures that do not incorporate relationships as they have traditionally been defined. The implicit agreement between genders is disintegrating because one party has demonstrably violated its terms. Certain women are beginning to acknowledge this impending crisis. They are observing the widespread exodus and are posing genuine questions. What can we offer that makes commitment a desirable prospect? How can we provide value that justifies the inherent risks? What fundamental changes are necessary to encourage men to re-engage? However, these voices are often drowned out by those who continue to demand more while offering less. The men who have reached their limit are not necessarily gone permanently. Present them with an equitable alternative, and they might reconsider. Offer genuine partnership instead of subservience. Provide an environment of peace rather than perpetual chaos. Bring tangible value instead of introducing liabilities. As long as the proposition remains unchanged, the departure will persist. The personal resolution is straightforward. Safeguard your own well-being. Identify emotional manipulation. Disregard inequitable structures. Oppose one-sided agreements. Insist on mutual benefit or withdraw. Your contentment is paramount. Your serenity is crucial. Your existence holds significance. Anyone who conveys a contrary notion has revealed themselves as an individual to be avoided. The communal remedy necessitates candor regarding past events. The agreement has been altered. The advantages have vanished. The expenses have escalated dramatically. The hazards have multiplied. Men are not failing to make commitments. Rather, they are excelling at evaluating risks. They are not apprehensive of partnerships. They are apprehensive of what partnerships have evolved into. Every man observing this needs to grasp that departing is not a failure. Declining unfavorable arrangements is not cowardice. Protecting oneself is not self-indulgence. Opting for tranquility is not a lack of fortitude. You are not fundamentally flawed for recognizing flawed systems. You are not mistaken for declining to participate in your own downfall. The conditioning that asserts your value is contingent upon a relationship is deceptive. The prevailing cultural narrative that glorifies male sacrifice while condemning female sacrifice as oppression is a manipulation. The societal framework that expects your provision while offering nothing in return is exploiting you. Perceive it, acknowledge it, and reject it. Men are disengaging from women, not due to animosity, but due to self-regard. They are prioritizing their personal welfare over the sentiments of others, their individual advancement over the convenience of others, and their own lives over the expectations of others. This is precisely what instills fear in a system predicated on male sacrifice. The inquiry is not why men are disengaging from women. The question is why it has taken such an extended period. The arrangement has been disadvantageous for many years. The risks have been evident for a considerable time. The manipulation has been plainly apparent throughout history. Men are not experiencing a sudden awakening. They are finally acknowledging what they have understood all along. The stigma associated with leaving is inconsequential when contrasted with the shame of remaining in the situation that is detrimental. The solitude of being unmarried is negligible compared to the isolation of being with someone who fails to acknowledge your presence. The apprehension of being alone is insignificant when measured against the dread of baseless accusations, financial devastation, or emotional ruin. Contemporary men are making a logical choice. They are examining what is being offered, analyzing the associated costs and benefits, and concluding that it is not worthwhile. This is not an emotional deliberation. It is a rational analysis yielding evident conclusions. The sole surprise is that anyone is surprised. The attempt to misrepresent this as male weakness or timidity is ludicrous. It requires strength to deviate from societal conditioning, bravery to disregard cultural expectations, intelligence to identify unfavorable agreements, and wisdom to choose peace over turmoil. Men are not retreating. They are progressing in a different direction. What is genuinely transpiring is the initial widespread male rejection of an unfavorable social pact. Historically, men acquiesced to whatever arrangement was presented because they had no alternative. Now they do. They can find contentment in solitude, fulfillment independent of families, and completeness without romantic partnerships. The leverage that compelled participation has dissipated. The consternation this provokes in certain quarters is unmistakable. What occurs when men cease their involvement? When they stop providing, stop sacrificing, stop accepting blame, stop seeking approval. The entire edifice constructed on male exploitation crumbles. However, for individual men, this collapse represents liberation. You are not obligated to participate in your own undoing. You do not have to accept disadvantageous deals. You are not required to sacrifice your happiness for another's. You need not engage in rigged contests. You can simply depart. and departing is akin to winning. The men who are disengaging from women are not embittered. They are liberated. They are not angry, merely cognizant. Not broken, but finally whole. They have discovered something transformative. They do not require what they were informed they needed. They are complete as they are, content as they are, free as they are. The ultimate realization is not about understanding women, but about understanding oneself. Your intrinsic value is not derived from female affirmation. Your worth is not validated by relationship confirmation. Your happiness is not dependent on another's. You are sufficient on your own, precisely as you are. So why are so many men finished with women? Because they have discovered that life is preferable without the drama, less costly without the demands, more peaceful without the discord, and more gratifying without the criticism. They are not missing out. They are moving forward, not falling behind, but finally gaining an advantage. I want to hear from you all. Are you finished? What was your tipping point? When did you realize the effort outweighed the reward? Share your experiences in the comments section. Let us chronicle this mass departure as it unfolds. Because, irrespective of societal acknowledgement, a fundamental shift has occurred, and men disengaging is not the problem. It is the resolution.